Welcome to the Towing Life podcast, where the ditches are deep, the trucks are loaded, but the drivers are not. I am your host, PlainGuy, and this week, as you can tell, I am not joined by my usual co-host, Mr. Towman G. Who would have ever thought that springtime would be harder to coordinate getting together to do these episodes than winter? I don't know how we managed to get through as much as we did in the wintertime and still be able to schedule and sit down and put these episodes together. Unfortunately, this spring has been a little chaotic. So we have had to do what we do best, and that is adapt. So that being said, it is the end of the month, which means that we are going to be announcing our winner of Recovery of the Month for the month of April. The submissions continue to come in. The photos you guys are giving us, the stories you guys are giving us are absolutely amazing. We are going to highlight one today. So if you don't know what the Recovery of the Month is yet and you are a new listener, it is simple. You submit to thetowinglife@gmail.com. You can find all the information at www.towinglife.ca. But you submit your best recovery via email, including your difficulty of your recovery, the description of the type of recovery you did, and as many high definition photos as possible. From there, they go into a pool. Myself, Towman G, producer Sarah, and a special hidden judge will vote on them. And every month we pick the highest rated recovery. So if you don't see your recovery get picked right away, don't worry. It could still come up later on in the draw. And the winner of the Recovery of the Month earns themselves a $50 Canadian gift card from Amazon, as well as a spot in our 2024 calendar that will become available at the end of 2023. So be sure to get your submissions in. The contest is going to run till about September. So far, we've had January, February, March, and today we will be announcing the winner for April. So without further ado, we will get into it. The winner of Recovery of the Month, sponsored by, we should mention, our wonderful friends over at TowSoft. Do not forget, if you need a new dispatching software or you just need to adapt in the industry and move forward, if you are still doing things on an Excel spreadsheet, a written log, whatever it is, you have no idea what you are missing out on. Head on over to www.towsoft.ca in order to get your free demo. And check it out. I'm telling you, you guys, I've ran TowSoft now for about 2 years. It has absolutely changed our business, our dispatching, everything. It has simplified it. It is user-friendly. It is organized. It is going to cut down on admin time for you so you can find more time to do the things you love, whether that be towing, recovery, or just getting a little bit of time away from the business. So head over to towsoft.ca for more information on that. The winner of our April 2023 Recovery of the Month is Mr. Max Hunt. You will see an awesome recovery these guys did. I'll give you a quick rundown on the description. It was a single tandem dump truck incident in which the truck came off of Highway 1 and hit a tree. Upon arrival, our operator found that the frame rail had impaled the tree, and the only way to pull it out without taking the tree with it was to cut the frame rail off. After recovering the mangled truck, we were still left with the whole front axle, the engine, transmission, and intercooler still to clean up. Using our light-duty wrecker, we originally wanted to load everything into the back of a dump bed. However, our light-duty boom could not reach. We've all been there. Sometimes those light-duty booms just don't have the extension that you need. What we ended up doing was lifting each piece individually and loading them onto our flat deck by backing the light-duty wrecker onto the deck. Also, to make it even more fun, the Highway Through Hell camera crew was on scene with us. One 30-ton wrecker, one Freightliner deck, and an F550 took 6 hours from on scene to towing near Chilliwack, BC, with reliable towing. So they had to get a little bit creative with this. As you can see, sometimes, in a perfect world, you have all the equipment in the world that you need, right? Anything you need, you got it. We've realized in real world scenarios, that's not always the case. So the fact that Max was able to, overcome maybe lack of equipment and get creative and think outside the box and load this up the way they did with their wrecker onto the flatbed, we thought was pretty creative. We thought deserved its spot in April calendar. So thank you, Max. You are the recipient this month of a $50 Amazon gift card sponsored by TowSoft. Congratulations. We cannot wait to see more submissions. So if you want to get your submission in, head on over www.towinglife.ca/recovery for all the information that you are going to need. We will put it together. We will get all these entries in. We will continue to go through them and update the pool as we go. And the winner of May is coming, June, July. You guys, there's plenty of chances to get in. So be sure to head over and get all your recoveries in at no cost to you. And we will be back next month to announce the June winner, or I guess May winner of the recovery of the month.
Hey everyone, I'm Brad from Calgary.
This is Sean from Cambridge, Ontario.
I'm Terry from Cornwall, Ontario.
Hey, this is Larry from Pitt Meadows, British Columbia, and you're listening to the Towing Life Podcast.
Welcome to the Towing Life Podcast, where the ditches are deep, the trucks are loaded, but the drivers are not. I am your host, PlainGuy. And as you will see this week, I am not joined by my usual co-host. That being said, Mr. Towman G has other matters to attend to this week. Wasn't able to make it. It's partially my fault. I'm not going to blame it on Towman G. It really was my fault. Last minute things came up on our scheduled day to record. We weren't able to make things work. So here I am by myself, as I've made him do many, many, many times before. So it doesn't hurt. We can get this done. We do have a special show on tap for you guys today. Because there is only one of us, and I don't think anybody wants to sit here and listen to me go on ramblings about why the industry is so great or not so great for 45 minutes this week. What we have done is we have put together a compilation of our favorite interviews. Most of our interviews that we have done, they've all been our favorite since the beginning of the show, looking back to episode 9. I think it was episode 10, episode 6, and I want to say somewhere around the 30s. We are going to go over some of those interviews with, first of all, Mr. Frank Dorval from Strong Arm Recovery. We have an awesome debate on commission versus hourly, and even get into a little bit of the damage claim process when it comes to a commission driver, when it comes to an hourly driver, ways we can avoid things. So that was a great interview that we did way back. We're going way back to episode 6 when things were just, we were an infant. We didn't even know what we were doing yet. Strong Arm was a great supporter and great friend of the show. We had him on. We had such a great conversation. So be sure to, if you haven't seen that whole episode, check it out. But until then, you can check out this section from the show where I bring you episode 6, Strong Arm Recovery. We have a special guest joining us on this episode of the Towing Life Podcast. I would like to introduce friend and supporter of the show, from Strong Arm Recovery, Frank Dorval.
Welcome, Frank. It's great to have you here with us.
It's great to be here. Thank you very much.
So, Frank, the one thing we want to talk to you about today, and this is going to be a very interesting topic for anyone watching or listening across the towing industry, whether you be in Ontario, where we are, Canada, all of the USA. This is a topic that goes industry-wide, and that is pay structure when it comes to towing. The two general pay structures we see out there are hourly and commission. There's different levels and types of commission. You've got commission where fuel isn't paid, commission where fuel is paid. You've got owner operators, you've got brokers, you've got all that thing. But the general hourly versus commission payroll is what we want to discuss today. And that is why we brought on Frank today, because Frank is a huge advocate, if I'm not mistaken, for the hourly pay of tow operators.
Yes, I am. It's easier to tell an employee to wash his truck, grease his truck, maintain his truck, fix that winch cable, or rewrap that winch cable on hourly. Commission, I've heard way too many, it's not my job. Well, that way of thinking will lead you a path right out the front door. Generally, hourly, they don't say that. And when a call takes an extra 10 minutes on hourly, take the 10 minutes, serve the client. Commission guy will just leave the call behind and say, give me the next one.
That's fair, and I definitely get that one. Now, my biggest thing is that I worked hourly. It's been a long time, and I was green as green came whenever I did. But once I got going into it, I was fairly efficient. I worked for a group that, let's be honest, we had a lot of dog fuckers. We had a ton of dog fuckers, right? And some of them were making, salary or pay was never something you were supposed to discuss. But let's be honest, we all discussed it. And you knew guys that were making either the same amount or more, and you were being more efficient and banging out more calls in a day. At the end of the day, I would take home less money and work harder. When commission came into play, by being efficient, by being good at my job, I was able to perform and make more money than somebody who, let's say, was a dog fucker.
When the calls were there. What if you're on a slow day? You're getting pissed off by noon. You haven't done a tow call. You're kicking the dirt outside. You're not maintaining your truck. You're not rewrapping your cable.
My last pay, I did really good. My last pay, the taxes from that last pay is what I made this pay.
Yeah, because you'd be taxed in a separate. They base it on what they expect you to make annually and tax you accordingly, right?
But it's a slap in the face being on commission and just having that flexible income. So I can understand where you're coming from, where the paid employee hourly rate is better and more stable that way.
Yeah. No matter what he does, like you said, it's washing the truck. I was never one. That's the thing. If the calls were there, if the calls aren't there and I'm on an hourly, I'm getting paid to sweep floors.
Yep.
I believe with the skill and the experience that we've learned over the years, I'm not above sweeping a floor. Don't get me wrong. But at the same time, that's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to tow. I'm here to recover. I'm here to do that work.
Now, if they're paid hourly, can they go home if the day's slow, or do you expect them to stay at the shop?
Oh, I expect them to stay at the shop. You are paid hourly to stay at the shop and do the little things. Fix tow lights. You don't need a 310T to fix a tow light.
No, and you know what?
When 310T to wash to grease your truck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll be the first one to say there's nothing more frustrating back when than, taking it, like I said, redoing that winch line, and a good paying call comes in and you're now missing it. I get that there is that downside to it. That does happen. It's not an ideal situation. Or I don't know how many times, Gene, you can attest this. You've done commission for a long time. Do I want to grease my truck right now? Not really, because I don't want to miss out on a call coming. Or I'll do my oil change later. I'll do, so I get it. There's definitely the advantages to the hourly when it comes like that. It's just do the advantages. And I'm looking at it, you're looking at it from an owner side, right? And you were an employee at one point as well. And I'm trying to look at it, for argument's sakes here, from an employee side. It's tough to, be efficient and be good at your job and still take home $20 at the end of the day more than the next guy, for $30 at the end of the day, when I could be taking home, if the calls are there, like you said, if the calls are there, I could be taking home $100 more than the other guy. Why? Because I'm good at my job.
Yeah, but if you're good at your job, you won't mind greasing the truck. You won't mind maintaining it. Plus, you'll get the bigger recoveries when it came in, because I trust you more than the next guy to go do that rollover. If a guy can't get a car over a snowbank, but the next call is that, and I have to send the commission guy because he hasn't moved all day, well, then you lose out on a good recovery too. If you're paid hourly, just go serve the client with a smile.
At the end of the day, that's what we're here for, right? We're all here to serve the customer with a smile, make everybody happy, get them off the side of the road, get them to wherever they're going, right? That's we're all doing the same thing. We've talked about that before.
Yeah.
Right. There's so much competition and everything, and competition is great among businesses. But when we're in turmoil, and might be a bit of an aggressive word for the towing industry right now, but we are definitely having trouble in the towing industry in Ontario.
No, I think you worded it right now in the towing industry with turmoil.
With turmoil. This is where competition needs to be put aside, right? And your views on the hourly, how has that been received across the industry? Because, owners speak to each other. A good group of towers. What do they think whenever you come to them and say, this model is what we should be doing?
A good tower with a head on his shoulders will switch companies. Whether it's hourly or commission, they will suit to their skills. If the guy wants to make more money and go on commission, I'll lose him. If the guy's hourly and wants a steady life for their kids and their wife, they'll pick hourly. It's easier to get a loan on hourly. It's easier to get a house on hourly. I want those things for my employees.
No, it's true. Go try going to the bank as a commission driver. It definitely impacts. Yeah.
2-year history on a commission driver to get a car loan. 3 weeks on hourly to get a car loan.
That's insane.
3 pay periods.
So 6 weeks, give or take. That's insane. Like I said, I want to agree with you. It sounds so good. Then let me ask you this. Where did commission get started?
Commissions got started for people trying to steady the cost of towing because it was so unstable. They say, if I pay you per call, I can budget better. That's where commission is. But if an owner is very good at getting work and keeping that work, hourly is better for the organization. It provides a steadier life for their employees.
Right. So steadier life, you're saying lower turnover on drivers, things like that.
I mean, I gave my drivers 2 raises during COVID. Ask me this, how many commission employees got raises during COVID?
I don't know of any.
I'm not going to ask the question because I think I know the answer.
All my drivers went to a minimum 23 an hour on my flatbeds and 27 an hour on my heavies.
And was there was it a because of COVID? Kind of what brought that on?
I didn't want to lose them to CERB. I still have the business to run. CERB is getting $2,000 a month for people to sit on their asses. Mm-hmm. While my guys make a minimum $4,000 a month before tax.
I don't understand who sits on their couch. Who can afford to sit on their couch for $500 a week? That's my problem.
Everyone.
A lot of people do it.
Hard. Oh, I don't have to pay rent because it's mandated that they won't evict me.
Yeah. I forget, I've met so many great professionals and, across the industry since I've been doing this that I forget that, there are still the bad apples in the towing industry, just like there is in every other industry, right? So I don't think of those guys that go, it's easier to just sit at home and collect money than go out. No, I want to be working. I want to be in my truck and I want to be making myself and my company money.
Well, that way of thinking is the right way, but it's gone the way of the dodo bird lately.
Common sense is not so common.
Nope, it's not. A good employee is hard to find, right? Give him a raise, though. He pops out of the woodwork.
I think it boils down to a lot of guys just don't give a fuck, right?
Well, that's it.
I know for me being on commission, it's all fine and dandy, but since I don't live in the town and I can't go home, I lose out on that big appealing aspect of if it's not a busy day, you can go home, do a little laundry, whatever. So where an hourly would be great, but then like PlainGuy was saying, you get swamped and you do 15, 16 calls in that day. You're making the same as you did yesterday sweeping the floor. So it's a lot more back-breaking work. It's not a hard job, let's be honest, but at the end of 15 or 16 calls in that day, you're going to be more tired than you were sweeping the floors the day before.
You're putting food on the table either way.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's true. I've always found that hourly was a way. Hourly encouraged drivers to find ways not to do a call.
I find the opposite. All my guys in Calgary are hourly plus bonus.
What do you mean by plus bonus? If they hit a certain volume of calls, if they hit a certain dollar amount that they invoice, what do you mean by?
So I have an hourly bonus going on in Calgary, anywhere from $2 to $5 an hour bonus. That's just if you don't give me any lift, you just go do the call. No damage claims. So there's accountability within the system.
Now, it makes sense. And I'm sure the guys appreciate it. And, obviously by the sounds of it, you've brought on some solid employees. Frank, okay, I'm glad you brought up the damage claims, right? Because that is one thing I've always wondered. As a commission driver, there is a fine line between being efficient and causing damage. Meaning, it doesn't take long for something to go wrong. Having hourly drivers, I imagine it's slows them down, gives them that extra time to think, and you don't have guys rushing and possibly fucking stuff up, right?
Yeah, that's right. So, damage claims. We have a company culture. We haze the shit out of somebody that has a damage claim. Like, what the hell were you thinking? You were taught this. What were you doing the night before? So there's always that constant pressure. But if you take 10 more minutes on a call, you're not going to get a lift from me. And nobody remembers if you were late 10 minutes on a tow call. But everybody remembers if you fuck something up.
That's true.
So,
That's true.
so the hourly slows you down and makes you pay attention.
Now, does that not cut into the bottom line at the same time? Now, I guess if damage claims drop in accordance with that, it would keep you, it should work out in the black on the right side of things.
Yeah. Now, number 2 is that I heard from my broker in Calgary and Ottawa that says that I don't understand. You haven't had a claim in the last 6 years. I said, no, I take care of it all in house. My insurance is a backup in case I kill somebody, not a means of income.
Yeah. And I think that's important, right? It's, I know a lot of companies, and we never do name names here, but a lot of companies, and it's something I want to get into on another episode of, who pays the damage claim. We talked about it a bit last week, if I'm not mistaken, but, companies carry insurance for that reason. If things go super south, a lot of companies don't want to put a claim in and will instead pass that buck down onto their drivers or try to. We know that there's laws to protect it, but let's be honest. It's a reality. It happens. It happens all the time.
We take care of it, but we have a budget of a 2-3% annual gross income for damages. Last year, I think it was 1%. Okay. Part of that shit. It's part of that shit happens file that we keep. It happens.
Yeah. Right. We've said it. I've said it 100 times. If you are towing and you have not broken something, whether it be, you're either full of shit or you haven't been doing it long enough, because there always will be something that happens. What a great episode that is. When we had a chance to sit down with Frank early on in the creation of this podcast, Frank was super supportive to the show and the ideas and everything we're moving forward. And then to have great conversations like you just seen was great for us and really helped us build the show to where it was and where it has become today. So thank you, Frank, for all that. Be sure to check out the full episode over on our Spotify or over on our YouTube. That being said, we have had another awesome guest that we've had onto the show, going back to, I want to say it's about episode 10, where we sat down with Andrew Vink of Herb's Towing from Heavy Rescue 401. That episode had to be one of my favorites. We laughed. We cried at one point, I think. We had all kinds of fun discussing the root of how Herb's Towing and Heavy Rescue 401 came to be, working in partnership, behind the scenes, little, bloopers and different things that have happened. So if you haven't seen the whole episode with Mr. Andrew Vink over at Herb's Towing, head on over to our YouTube or Spotify, scroll back. I want to say it's about episode 10, and be sure to check it out. Until then, we'll give you this short clip that you can watch from episode 10, the Towing Life podcast. On today's episode of the Towing Life podcast, we are joined by a very special guest, an industry celebrity of sorts. This man is a third-generation tower, owner of one of the biggest rotators in Canada, has appeared on Heavy Rescue 401 from Cornwall, Ontario. Welcome, Andrew Vink of Herb's Towing. Welcome, Andrew, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, guys. Quite the pleasure to be here.
As we mentioned, you have appeared on Heavy Rescue 401, which has been, that show has taken off in popularity. It's guys like you and appearing on that show that forces every customer to ask me, have you seen that show about the 401? Yes, I've seen it.
Every day you get asked that. Oh, do you like it?
Sorry.
Yes.
Now,
how did you get started with it? How did you get wrapped up in it in the first place?
We had a freelance producer by the name of Lionel Goddard, works out of Ottawa. Produced a lot of shows like Alaskan Bush Pilots. Been in touch with Discovery Channel. So he had the idea of maybe bringing Eastern Ontario in the mix of this Heavy Rescue 401 stuff. And we actually got a phone call. And to be honest with you, it's quite a weird phone call when you get somebody on the phone saying, hey, do you want to appear on the Discovery Channel episode of 401 Heavy Rescue 401. And like, yeah, is this like a scam or something? So
Where do I send the iTunes gift cards to?
Yeah, exactly. So, no, we proceeded to an in-person meeting, and he told us what he wanted to achieve. And so happened we had 2 recs back to back from that meeting. They filmed that, and Discovery liked us, and we started being on board from there. And that's how pretty much like the beginning of the show was based in the GTA. So there wasn't a lot of companies either east or west of the GTA. So having somebody representing Eastern Ontario was quite the accomplishment, I would say. I know having Cornwall on the Discovery Channel was quite interesting. So that's how we started being on the show.
Yeah, it's pretty much you and Preferred Towing that are outside of the GTA, isn't it?
Pretty much, yeah. There's some companies that have grown since, like you've got Kingston that's on the show, Prescott, Algonquin that's just south of Cardinal, north of Cardinal. So it expanded since, but yeah, I'd say the first few companies that actually expanded outside the GTA would be pretty much myself and Preferred.
Preferred, yeah. Did you happen to get yourself, speaking of Preferred, did you happen to get yourself the Colin bobblehead?
I've seen a few of those being shipped out. It's quite. I wouldn't see myself on a bobblehead myself, but good for them. Yeah, did you get shipped to you?
Yeah.
Did you actually go out and buy one?
Yeah, no, I contacted them through Facebook and inquired to buy one, sent them the money transfer, and they shipped it to me.
Nice.
Yeah, no, it's
nice.
I had to get one. As soon as I seen it, I'm like, I'm always looking for little knickknacks and things for the background and that, and I'm like, you know what, that bobblehead, that's perfect. The good news is, if you ever get yourself your own bobblehead, you will save on material because it's about half as big as this one.
Shots fired. That was not even 2 minutes inside the show. Bang! Shots fired. I got to give it to Preferred though. Gary, Colin, Tammy, the whole crew, the whole family at Preferred have they're pretty much the frontier of the show. Like they're the go-to company of the show. They're the image they've been on news broadcasts. So if there was one company to make a wobblehead of the show of the characters, it would be Preferred. So good for them. And it all goes for the cause. It all goes for Tammy's
organization she runs, right? It's
exactly.
It's homing for less fortunate
for homeless. Exactly.
Yep.
Like women and people that don't have the fortune of calling somewhere home. So it's for a good cause. They're not pocketing the money, so good for them.
No, they always seem to be very active in any sort of community program they have going on, and it is nice to see. Okay, so I didn't realize that it was. I kind of had an idea, I guess, that they, it's a film guy who comes together, puts it together, sends it to Discovery. So Discovery wasn't the ones that came down. I know it's all done through independent companies, but it was a show that was pitched to them after the fact that they picked up.
So the producer and Lionel Goddard, so our main guy for Eastern Ontario are good friends. And the same guy that produces the show Heavy Rescue produced Highway Through Hell.
Okay.
And the discussion was, you really want to see what a Highway Through Hell is, go through the GTA. And so the idea was pitched. They got improvement from the MTO. Things proceeded to filming with companies, and they quickly expanded to outside ventures, outside companies from the GTA. And yeah, they pretty much work independently. Like all these guys aren't employed from Discovery. They're pretty much all freelancers. So they're brokers. They got to have recs to make their money. They're in the same boat as we are.
Yeah. They need the business to be there, or they're not going to make any money either, right?
Exactly. They need the white gold as much as we do.
So let me ask you then, with in today's world, especially with social media and what do they call them, armchair quarterbacks? Everyone that can watch something and do better than what they see. How do we the being on the show? How does that hurt or help the awareness for the industry? Do you think it does a decent job in making sure that it's protecting the image? Because in all fairness, you can find video footage everywhere of negative in the towing industry.
100%.
How do you find the show uses that to balance the amount of drama, but also keeping the image intact?
Okay, so let's first things first. Obviously, the Discovery Channel, they need a show that sells. That's where the drama comes in. Everybody's going to say, "Well, Mike Winch doesn't make that sound," and I don't see line snapping all the time. No, it's dramatically induced to make the show sell. I would say 100% has increased the awareness of what we do. I don't know for you guys, but I've been approached many times and people saying, I didn't know how much work you guys had to put in to do a tractor to roll over, or I didn't know how dangerous your job was with traffic on the 401 or any other road for that matter without traffic control. It has significantly increased the awareness of the job we do. A lot of people did not know what a tour was all about. And it's yeah. So yeah, 100%. I'd say the downfall to that is the commercial side of it. These guys that we tow are sometimes multi-million-dollar companies, transport companies, guys with a lot of significant, like a lot of majorly impactful that can significantly impact our business, I would say.
Okay.
So let's say let's use for Transforce, their own name.
Yep.
If they see one of their trucks on the show, try to go to their door and knock for business. They're going to tell you, well, I really don't want my truck on that show.
Right.
So, I rather do somebody that's not affiliated with Heavy Rescue 401. We had that issue at the beginning.
Really?
And, oh yeah. But mind you, Discovery has been tremendously supportive in trying to mask the names on the doors, change the color schemes. Like we did jobs for big companies that are like the color of the truck itself would tell you 100% what the company was, and the truck was green instead of being, let's say, red on the show.
Real? Wow. Okay. So they really,
they do.
Yeah,
So,
I never thought of that a company, especially these massive companies that have these big fleets and see the show. I never would have thought of that they would have said, oh, I've got a truck that wrecked in that area. I know this company is on the show. I'd rather not use them. I never would have thought of that one.
And even we've had like we got our own customer base, and you'd have customers roll over and the show where Lionel will get wind of it and come up the scene, and I would tell Lionel, keep me out of the loops. You deal with the customer, and if he gives you authorization to be here, by all means, we'll film together. But I don't want to get in the mix in between trying to vouch for Discovery or vouch for the customer. Now, if you guys can have a mutual understanding, he's not there to the company to look bad, but he's not also there to make me lose business. So he's got to have, and they're really, really good for that. So technically,
how does that work? Do they sit
what?
on standby with you?
Yeah, they do. Yep. So they come out of Ottawa, so they're an hour out. If we get a wreck that needs a lane closure, we call them up, or they get wind of OPP Twitter, and then they'll call us up and they'll make their way there. If it's a snowstorm, they'll actually sleep in Cornwall or stand by with us in the trucks around the shop.
Wow.
Has that ever led to any delay problems? Meaning, you guys will still show up at scene and start the recovery regardless if they've shown up or not, right?
100%. So what we've done in the past, which let's say we show up, OPP calls us, disable live lane or jackknife blocking a few lanes. We'll get there. They're on their way. We'll start the recovery. They'll film what they get. And if it's enough to make a 30-second clip, then be it. If not, then it's the name of the game. And the only thing we'll see, a lot of people ask us, well, do you guys have to do things twice? The only thing that we actually might do twice is getting out or getting inside the truck. So let's say before leaving, he said everything's wrapped up. So, can you just jump out of the truck so I can get that arrival shot? But the rigging wise, pulling, there's none of that shit. If they lose a shot or miss a shot, too bad. It's the name of the game. We're not doing this shit twice.
No, absolutely, and that would just ruin more the integrity of the companies involved, right? It's
100%.
There's already been rumors, and I've heard people say that they rig it for the show, or they only hooked it that way because no. I've worked with you guys all personally, and I tell a lot of people whenever we do see the show that the character, even the personalities that you get, as extreme as some of them have been over the years, are exactly that person. That is not facade. Like you said, they add effects. They add, the forklift noise for the winch.
Oh, 100%. It's like I said, if my winch and my DP winch sounded like that, it'd be in the shop getting dismantled because that's a sickening sound to hear when you're winching something. But no, as for redoing things twice, never. I'm not sure if they had success with other companies doing so, but for us, definitely it's no. My reputation is on the line. And we do quick clearance. I'm not in business to make a TV show. If we can do it while doing business, great. If not, then it is what it is.
So it sounds like a lot of serious stuff going on over there. But what's the funniest moment that you
Bloopers.
could be a cameraman falling over or one of you guys falling over. What's the funniest thing that's ever happened to you while filming?
Sometimes you forget you're being recorded because you're mic'd all the time. So, it's like they're not always in your face. So some guy, I remember I was doing this rec, and I've got this condition where when I get nervous, I got to take a shit.
Yeah,
So,
I do remember that.
So I've, man, God forbid I'm doing this on a podcast, but like if I'm responding to no PP call, and I got this adrenaline flowing, and it just like that. Oh shit! I got to take a shit, and like I don't even have time to make it to the bathroom. Sometimes I got to stop inside of 401, and if you see green patches, it's probably because I've stopped there before. So we're doing this show, we're doing this recovery. And I'm telling the guys, man, I don't know why. Every time I come to these wrecks, I gotta take a massive shit. And all this time, like this Lionel guy is laughing his ass off because he can hear me. Yeah. I completely forget that I'm being recorded. Oh man, it's bloopers. Like they've got a 30-pound camera on their shoulder, and they're only watching through that lens, so they don't have 100% awareness of what's around them. I've seen them tripped over skids, seen them tripped over. We'll put a sandblock on the ground or a leg of a rotator. So that's,
They've had their fair share of falls.
They had their fair share of falls. And honestly, they become part of the family for 3-4 months out of the year. Like we work together. Like we do so many hours together in the winter. Like they're part of the team. So there's a good rapport, a good working relationship. So it's quite an adventure sometimes with these guys.
Well, the fact in that episode that always gets to me and gives me the biggest laugh is when Andrew talks about his condition he has and the fact that he was mic'd up during all of it. That is absolute podcast gold. So if you want to find that full episode, head over to episode 10. I want to say it was somewhere around there. You will see Herb's telling Andrew Vink. Be sure to check it out on YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you listen to. Our two last guests were two of the smartest people we've ever had on this show. Paul Stevens and Fritz Dahlin from BA Products. We are talking trainers for Miller Rotator class. We are talking guys who have gone through the ringer and tested products and helped design products to improve towing and bring it to that next level that we are always trying to do. These guys were full of fun facts, full of great information. And if we could remember, if I could maintain half the knowledge these guys have known in their entire careers, I would be a better tower for it. So without further ado, I give you, I don't know what episode number it was, but you can go back and find it. Our wonderful sit down with Paul Stevens and Fritz Dahlin from BA Products. Check it out. So that being said, I mentioned that we are having a special episode. We are joined by two, they won't call themselves, but I will, legends in the industry. As I see them laughing down in our green room right now at that comment. We're joined today by two wonderful folks from over at BA Products. BA Products has, if you don't have a piece of BA product on your truck, I would be surprised because every truck that I have operated since the day I started towing, which is almost 10 years now, has had one or many at times BA products. We are joined by Mr. Paul Stevens, senior product specialist and trainer. Paul is experienced and specialist in electric vehicle towing and storage, as well as a third-generation operator of Coleman's Motor Company in Fredericksburg, Virginia. We're also joined by Fritz Dahlin. I hope I pronounced that right, Fritz. I'll give you a chance to correct me in a bit. Special products manager with BA Products, over 37 years with them, and inventor of the 8-point tie-down system. If you don't know what the 8-point tie-down system are and you are driving a flatbed, you shouldn't be driving a flatbed. Just turn it. No. I won't discourage anyone that way. I will encourage them to turn off the show and never listen again. That being said, we will bring both the gentlemen on. Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you guys for joining us today. I hope I got that all right.
You did.
I did.
Sounds pretty good to me.
Perfect. I was worried about the pronunciation. I kind of pulled that out last second. When I'm going to use his last name because I used Paul's. It's only fair. So, gentlemen, we want to talk about, like as we mentioned in the intro, the 8-point tie-down system. First of all, for anyone running a flatbed that doesn't know what the 8-point tie-down system is, I think that is very important. Because I think the way of vehicles have gone, chains on light-duty passenger vehicles have all but gone away. Is that pretty fair to say?
I would say, I don't want to cut Fritz off, but I would say that, 95% of light passenger vehicles have no access for a chain to go onto them. So if you're not considering using a strap, now would definitely be the time.
Yeah. I think that's pretty. Hey, we're seeing bridles now that have gone to the full strap setup, right? Where they don't even want you putting J hooks on some of these aluminum or, carbon fiber. We're even starting to get into with the high performance cars. Like, they don't even want you putting a hook on it, let alone a chain to tighten it down.
So a lot of manufacturers, they frown upon anything touching their lower control arms or their back A arms or the strut mounts or anything. They really do not like the metal on metal. So if you have aluminum and you're using, a cast J hook and it leaves just a little mark, they freak out about it. Can it hurt it? I don't know, but a lot of the OEM stuff that I'm involved in is testing, and it's vehicles that are coming years from now, and they 100% will not allow attachment to the lower control arms or to the back A arms. And then doing away with the keyway slots underneath the vehicle, you definitely got to have a strap bridle, or you've got to have some form of attachment device that is non-marking.
Now, that being said, I want to get into so much more, but again, we know these topics always kind of find a mind of their own. The idea of not putting a hook on, now, does it actually do damage? Is this the same idea where manufacturers are saying that Chevy Cobalts, Volkswagen Golfs need to have a flatbed because a good operator can still get it done, but they're trying to eliminate the the chance of a failure. Everything.
Yeah. So the Cobalt in the Jetta and these other ones, they have the fiberglass oil pans. So when you're towing them on a wheel, if they get that bounce, and when they take that bounce, it's just the one wrong hit that can cause the problem, and it busts the oil pan. So that I'll sidebar that for just a second.
Right.
But a lot of the manufacturers, they prefer the flatbed tow over the wheel lift, and I'm not sure that sometimes it's actually correct. But it's a mental thing to them. All four wheels are off the ground and they're being transported, and that's the perfect scenario for them. But the reality is that we all know sometimes a wheel lift does hardly anything as far as attachment to the vehicle other than touch the tires.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as the vehicle is fairly newer and it doesn't get that long travel when you hit a bump or go up and down a dip or something, a lot of times it's not a bad thing. But I will tell you that, from the dolly world too, using dollies now, we're seeing on electric vehicles and stuff that the rock back and forth. And even if you have them strapped down, it has a rock in it.
Yeah, it always will have a certain amount of play.
Exactly. And we're seeing that where it's damaging some of the sensors in the electric vehicle world. So wheel lift and dolly, Tesla, they're all for it. They have no problem with you wheel lift and dolly in their car. But then you go over to, say, Polestar or somewhere else, absolutely not. No matter what, we don't want you. We don't want
really, because I know we do a lot of Tesla roadside, and what I understand, they want all flatbeds with us.
So yes, and I have to be clear about that. And what I'm saying is that a wheel lift touching their car. So if you have one in a parking garage, you got to wheel lift and dolly it out. You're not getting a rollback up inside there. Yeah. So in some aspects, when I say that, it means a wheel lift and dolly moving it out of the garage or something else. And that's what I mean.
Not for the towing.
Just to clarify that.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah. And so with some of the newer vehicles coming, and even I drug Fritz into some of this stuff, we have weight issues now when you're using chain or strap or whatever. If there's no attachment for the chain and you got to use a strap, now you got to make sure that the strap is rated for the amount of weight that you're going to be pulling. So that's in a perfect world. If the vehicle's rolling, fine. But if it's not, now you're loading up that strap pretty good. And how long does it take for your strap to wear out if it's constantly pulling a load that's at its maximum, working load limit on the strap?
Right. And that is fair. And towing as a whole is an industry, in my professional opinion, I'll say at this point, that is where we learn to adapt and overcome to things, meaning that 8-point tie down system that we're talking about, I have used it outside of what its actual purpose is. And I think most towers have, whether that be to, I've fed it, I've gotten rid of the dog bone and gone through the rim back to the front of the truck and done a tie down that fashion. Or, you know, we've hauled a piece of equipment. We used it to tie over the forks of a forklift, that kind of stuff, which I can get criticized, I imagine, sitting here because it's like, you know, use the product on what's its intentions for. But that's the reality of what I believe a lot of towers are doing across the industry. So having, you know what I mean, when you talked about how much load can it take getting pulled constantly, we tend to test the maximum of our equipment in the field. And that's where a guy like Fritz does most of that testing on a bench in a safe place so that we can do that in the field, I believe.
And that's a question that we get a lot, is how long should my strap last?
100%.
And it's a tough, I hate to say, well, it depends, but it really does. How many times a day do you use it? How do you store it? What kind of loads are you putting on it?
So that and just to exasperate on that a little bit more, I just want to use that big word. I'm a tower, so I got to use a big word every now and then. A lot of times, so I see comparisons online and stuff where somebody will say, "Oh, this strap has lasted me. It's so much better than this or that, and it's lasted me this long." And I think to myself, "Wow, if you only knew that the materials in there inside of that have degraded so far out that sure, the outside of the strap may still look good, but the inside, if you cut it open and you saw the fibers inside, they may be horrible." So there's so many different ways to look at it when you're thinking in that mindset of like, you know, how long does a strap last? You know what? Everything has a duty cycle, and getting that inside your head of when to replace that. You know, I use Fritz. Fritz is my duty cycle. Fritz, how long will the strap last? You know, well, you should replace them at this point. Okay, we're past that point, so let me order some.
Yeah, you know, and we've talked to Paul and I've talked about it a little bit. It's almost, there's certain things like your tie down straps on a rollback, your winch line, that really ought to be considered consumables. They're like a brake lining or a fan belt. They're gonna wear out. They only have a certain lifespan. They're generally relatively inexpensive. It's something I think people really ought to consider.
Right, where people are thinking, I get it, they should be good forever, and then when they got to replace them, it's looking at it as an added cost. Where
it's cheaper to replace that winch line before it breaks than repairing the car that just smashed into the pole because it broke under load.
Or
that's great. What's the cheapest item on your truck besides fuel?
My operators.
I was going to say
my piece of lumber.
I was going to say the winch line.
Yeah,
the winch
line. A wheel lift strap is $20.
Yeah. So I say it's the winch line personally because that's where all of my liability lies.
Yeah,
right.
That's the cheapest item for me because if I equate it, that if I have a wheeler strap on, this wheeler strap crawls off and goes down the road, and it's $6, and what's a ratchet for it's $10, so call it $16 or $20 to replace that. My winch lines call it $70, and I'm pulling cars up and down all day long. Or if I'm using a wheel lift, I'm winching cars out. Right. And to me, when I equate that out, it's almost pennies for each time I load a car. So to me, that's a consumable, and it needs a replacement cycle.
And without that winch line on a bed, your bed's pretty well rendered useless.
Well,
absolutely.
Else,
exactly.
Yeah. We use synthetic rope, so it's a little more expensive.
Yeah,
but same thing. It's true. If you do think of the amount of times that you use that, how many calls you can do in a day, and that thing up and down, and you break down that to the cost of the actual rope. Yeah, it's a different way to look at it. I've never thought of it. I think a lot of people listening will be in the same boat, going, "Yeah, I never thought about it that way." That's why we had you find gentlemen here to tell us about it.
And what's the other part of that? The whole winch line thing is care. Nobody really knows how to take care of their winch line. I see people say, "Oh yeah, pour transmission fluid on it." I see them say, "Oh, you don't need to keep tension on it when you wind it up," or I can't keep it straight on my rollback. There's just, you can go forever on this. And Fritz and I have either A, heard it all, or B, seen it all as far as this stuff goes. But I have to be honest with you, about once every couple months, both of us are texting each other when we get the email. We don't even respond on the email, and we're like, "Did you see that?" "Oh yeah, I saw it." How does that even happen? I have no clue, but we've got to find out. Let's get on a call.
So let's set the record straight, because I have been definitely part of those conversations. Transmission fluid, yes or no on steel? We'll talk about steel. We'll talk about fiber core, steel core. Transmission fluid, yes or no?
Fritz? He knows
All
how I
liability aside. All liability aside.
He knows exactly how I feel.
Transmission fluid, I'm probably going to say no. Motor oil, I don't think is terrible.
On steel cable. On steel cable.
Steel cable. Oh,
Yeah,
steel cable. Absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah.
of course. Yeah, steel cable.
There are a couple products made specifically for lubricating wire rope and roller chain, things like that. Anything is better than nothing. Lubrication, and one of the things I do in the class we presented down at DC Fire yesterday, I was there yesterday, talking about wire rope. So you have a 6x25 wire rope. You more or less have 150 paper clips in a straight line that you're bending back and forth. So it's different material and treated differently, but the concept is the same. We've all taken that paper clip and bent it back and forth, and it breaks. Well, that's what's happening in your wire rope. All those wires are moving against each other in different ways, and if there's no lubrication, they're going to wear faster. They're going to fail faster.
Right. They'll get a dry rub. We can imagine what that would feel like. And yeah, eventually on steel, especially, things are going to go, they're going to go.
They're going to go.
There's a trade-off too, though. You can get fiber core, which wraps around your drum a lot nicer and gets a memory much faster, but it wears out faster. Or you can get steel core that has a harder time retaining its memory, but it lasts a little bit longer as long as you take care of either one of them. And I say that loosely because I know people who can get more out of their fiber core than they can out of their steel core because they don't take care of it.
And that's the other thing that there's almost always a trade-off when you especially talk about wire rope or even web products, things like that. There's going to be a trade-off. You can do fiber core, you can do steel core, you can do compacted super swage, you can do synthetic. They all have their advantages. They all have their disadvantages.
Right.
You have to find what works best for you.
Well, again, it depends on your scenario. If you're a guy that does a lot of scrap or accident hauling, you might not want to look at synthetic rope because the snaggability of this line, it's easy to burn the synthetic rope if you're not taking care of it or watching
easier. But again, there's trade-offs.
I'm gonna guess Paul has a cat or something.
It's Clyde. Fritz knows Clyde, my dog, and he's decided that after all day, guess what? It's time to go rub back and forth on my chin. So he's behind me moving the curtain, and I'm going, "What is going on behind me?"
Fritz is mid-conversation, and Paul's screen. They're just flapping.
So I knew what it was.
He moseyed into the other room now, so it'll be a few minutes before he comes back.
I see.
What more do we have to say with I sit down with those two gentlemen? They were absolute legends, absolute professionals in the industry. And, the industry is definitely a better place with those two being part of it. So I want to thank every one of you for sitting down, joining us this week on the Towing Life podcast as we go through our favorite interviews to date. We will be sure to try and get more guests on for you. It has been an absolute pleasure to do these episodes. I'm so happy you guys have joined me. I'm sorry Towman G isn't here. I promise we will be back to you soon with both of us where we sit down, we talk about the good, the bad, the ugly facing the towing industry. So on behalf of myself and the rest of the crew over at the Towing Life podcast, thanks for coming out. We'll see you next time. Take care.